Hey everybody, my name is Jim Farmer. I'm the festival director of Out on Film, Atlanta's LGBTQ Film Festival. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our first hybrid event, meaning we have screenings in cinema. We also have screenings virtually as well. One of the great documentaries that we have this year is Emergence, Out of the Shadows, which is an excellent documentary about the unique challenges faced by gay and lesbian members of the South Asian community in Metro Vancouver. We have some members of the Emergence team today. I will let them introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Alex.
So I am the producer and I'm also the cast member. And I am a social worker and a counselor by profession. And I'm an emerging documentary producer. I've done a short documentary film. My name was January about a transgender woman already. And this is my first feature film. And I'm really excited to be a part of Out on Film.
Thank you. We're excited too.
Hi, my name is Giridhar. I'm the director of Emergence Out of the Shadows. I am an animator, I'm a graphic designer, I'm an illustrator. This is my first debut documentary feature film. And I'm really excited to be on Out of Film as well.
Thank you so much. And congratulations on the film. And our programmers love this film. So thank you to
thank you so much for saying that.
Well, first off, we'll just start with a basic question. Just tell me, if you can, how the film came up, how the documentary started.
Vinay, go ahead.
Our producer Alex Sangha, he produced his first feature film, January. My name was January, and then it had done really well. And then we were all really excited. And then we talked about doing a second one. And I happened to be there with them at the time. And then we discussed what we could do. And then we thought we share members at the organization that Alex founded, Share Vancouver, has a lot of members and they have amazing stories to share. So we decided to do a film on all the members, like some of the members that we picked from the group. But the main thing that we wanted to share was Caden's story. Caden, as you see in the movie, he's the youngest of the cast. And his story is really inspirational, like how he fought against society and everything that he faced to become the success that he is today. And then having the courage to tell his story, it's amazing. So we decided to make a film around his story and then also include the reaction of the parents, who sometimes are not very supportive, but there are supportive parents as well. So we wanted to say a balanced story. Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, in terms of all the subjects that are used in the film, how did you know many of them, or how did you go about finding all the people who are going to be the central subjects?
So I am one of the central subjects, and my mother, you hear from her, she brings the parental perspective, and then everyone who is we don't want to give the story away for people who haven't watched the film,
Exactly.
but basically everyone in the film is connected to the nonprofit that I founded for Queer South Asians and Friends.
Okay.
They're all connected through Share Vancouver, and they're all connected in one way or another through this organization, and we very carefully selected the cast based on their stories, their lived experiences, and how we can make this film interesting as a documentary. We wanted to make sure the film was balanced. We wanted to make sure we had not just gay men in the film, but also a lesbian, a woman. We wanted to make sure we had people of different generations, older and younger, and we also wanted to make sure we had the parents. And what makes this film very unique is you actually get to hear from the parents and the journey and the struggle that they go through to accept their children. I mean, that's very, very rare in our community, and you never get to see that. A lot of times when you have coming out stories, you just hear from, the gay and lesbian kids, but here you also get to find out what the parents in the Punjabi, Sikh, and South Asian community, struggle with and how they come to terms with it and what their journey was.
This is a question for both of you. Can you just talk a little bit about growing up, realizing you're gay and just some of the challenges that you faced, realizing that you're not like everyone else?
Well, Vinay actually likes to keep his private life private, so I'll comment on that.
Okay, sure.
It was very difficult for me. I had internalized homophobia and I had internalized racism. So that means I did not like myself for being gay. and I did not like myself for being brown. So, because when I grew up in the high school that I went to, there was a lot of racial tension, and back then people were calling you queer, faggot, homo, just as a normal terminology, and I really felt alienated and isolated. I felt there was something wrong with me. There was no internet back then. There was no cell phones back then. There was no grinder. There was no gay straight alliances. There was nothing for anyone like this, just some young gay kid struggling in the community. How are you supposed to know that you're okay and that you're all right and there's nothing wrong with you? And what happened was I secretly went to see a psychiatrist and tried to get some help because I thought there was something wrong with me. It took me 5 or 6 sessions just to say one word and just say that, I think, there's something wrong with me. I tried to be straight. I went to see a doctor because I wanted to be straight because I thought there's something wrong with me. Why don't I find the girls attractive in my class? It was a very sad, sad situation. I had a nervous breakdown, and you see what happens in the film when I had the nervous breakdown and how I came to my self acceptance and that journey. And then again, I don't want to give that away, but it was a very difficult time back then. And I'm glad that we are in a time now where there's more resources, there's more information, there's more support for youth.
Growing up is difficult enough as it is, but when you're gay and having to deal with all the confusion about that. But can you talk about the specific challenges of realizing that you're gay in the South Asian community?
You know what? There's a lot of pressure in the South Asian community to get married and have children.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, a lot of gay men especially, are forced into arranged marriages. And because they're too afraid to come out to their families, and they don't want to be disowned, they don't want to be rejected, they don't want to be disinherited, you know and a lot of our families are very collective. They live together in the same house. I mean, how can you bring a male partner over?
Exactly.
you know so what happens is, a lot of gay men end up going to bathhouses, going to public parks. They start hooking up with other men, and this actually puts their wives at risk of STDs and HIVs because a lot of times they're not knowledgeable or practice safe sex. So this is more than a cultural issue and a social issue of homophobia and transphobia. It's also a health issue.
Exactly.
And it actually, the way I see it is you have one life to live in your life. Do you want to go through half your life or whatever living a double life, or do you want to be true to yourself and true to your identity and be who you are and how God has created you? So we're hoping emergence out of the shadows, that people can emerge, they can get some education, the parents can get some education, they can feel good. We really want to give some hope with this film. We want people to love themselves.
Exactly. But Nate, I wanted to ask you, I mean, this film does a masterful job of really, in terms of editing, I mean, just sharing these stories. I mean, everybody gets, to tell their story. And it's not, as you talked about, it's not just, the subjects, but it's also their parents as well. Can you talk a little bit about juggling all this and just a great job of telling everybody's stories, but also showing the parents' points of view, because we don't normally get to see parents in movies like these?
It's for Indian South Asian families, as Alex said before, our families are very collective. We are long extended families.
Sure.
And then everybody tend to stay together, and then they are like in every, like there's WhatsApp groups that are like, people are always in touch. So it's very, like, sometimes when you suddenly realize you're gay, like it becomes a huge blow to you. Like you don't know what to do, and like you don't know where to turn to. You don't know where to get the resources you need to survive at that point. And then they are afraid to come out to their parents or their siblings, and they're basically scared of being rejected, ostracized by their families and their society, their religion, everything. So it was really important for me to bring out the stories of the parents, because for a parent to accept their child as they are, it is in a way it is simple enough, but it's very difficult when it comes to sexuality and gender identity and all this.
Sure.
So it is very difficult for them. So for them to come out and say, this is my story, and I accept my son or my daughter as they are. And it is powerful to watch. So I believe it's important to have in the film.
Exactly. Alex, when you were growing up, did you, I grew up a long time ago, and I saw very few people I could relate to on TV or film, but was there anybody that you could relate to when you were growing up, or anybody that you saw said, I that's me? Was there anybody that you could relate to?
Whenever I saw gay characters in Bollywood or Hollywood films, it was stereotypical. They were effeminate, or they were weird, funny about them, or they were comedians, or they were dressing up in women's clothes or something, and they were presented in a very sort of comedic, negative, stereotypical manner. And I didn't want to be a part of that. I
Hmm.
didn't, I wasn't happy. I didn't really see myself in that role, and I was quite ashamed. I didn't have any positive role models, and I remember I started to have my awareness around my sexuality when I was in grade 8 or 7 or 8, and Family Ties was a big sitcom at that time that used to come on right after the Cosby Show. And Michael J. Fox, the star of that show, was from Vancouver, from Burnaby, which is a suburb of Vancouver, and I had a huge crush on him. I even changed my name. My Indian name was actually Amar, and I changed my name to Alex when I went to a new high school in grade 8 just because of Michael J. Fox. And I couldn't get this guy out of my mind. I just kept on. I remember one time, Back to the Future came out, and I must have watched it 10 times. And I was so wishing I could be his girlfriend in the film. You know? I was so wish I could be his girlfriend in the film, and then I knew, okay, well, the chances of me meeting Michael J. Fox, even though we live in the same city, is very small. But what really hit me that, you know, okay, this something strange. I don't know if it kind of feels good and it kind of doesn't. And talk to no one in your school. There was no friends that I knew that were gay. There was no groups. There was nothing. Actually, I remember when I was a little bit older, when I was about 14 or 15, they had a gay and lesbian resource center in Vancouver, the only one in the whole city, and it was a 2.5 hour bus ride from where I lived. I had to take 3 buses to get there. So I would be traveling 3.5, 4 hours a day in the middle of the night as a 14-year-old kid going to this youth group in downtown Vancouver that was for queer people. And when I got there, I'm very sad to say I got kind of marginalized. I didn't fit in. I was the only brown kid there. And everyone else was out. They had, different kinds of hair, and they were having fun, and they were all largely, by and large, Caucasian. And I couldn't, it was hard for me to fit in and make friends, even within the queer community. And I think all these childhood and adolescence experiences that I've had was one of the reasons I founded Share Vancouver for queer South Asians and our friends, so that people in our community know that they are not alone, and they also have safe spaces, and they can fit in, and people like them, they can meet people who are like them and who have gone through the same cultural, social, religious, and those types of experiences, and have those lived experiences.
Nate, I have a question for you. The film obviously shows a lot of the difficulties the subjects have with coming out, dealing with themselves, their parents, their religion, their surroundings. But there's also so much optimism and positiveness in this film. I mean, case in point, I hope I'm not giving a spoiler away, but one of the characters goes to a pride event at the end, and I mean, her reaction is just so joyous, just feeling at home for the first time. And there's just, the film is just so inspirational. Can you talk a little bit about the challenge of showing what they're doing, but also having, being able to have happy endings for these characters?
I believe being gay or lesbian in the South Asian community, um, like I said, it's very, very hard for them, and they don't find that outlet for them to express themselves and talk to somebody. So, and a lot of them are really sad or in hiding or not talking to anybody about it. So it was important through this film to show a positive side of everything. Like there is community out there for you, that you can find your own group. Like in the film, somebody mentions like, find your own people. Like I believe Jag said that, find your own. Yeah, even if it's just one person, you need to find your own. And that's enough. You need that support system. And then finding that will help you, navigate whatever you're going through. So I think there's enough sadness in the world. There's enough distress. There's enough sorrow. Like you need some more positivity. And this is why we need a positive end in the film. Even for Caden, like even though his story is so sad, like at points, I really comment on, like I really what do I say? What's the word for it?
Redemption.
Huh?
Redemption.
Yeah, like how he found redemption in finding his own community and like fighting with the society and being a rebel essentially, and finding his own people. Like it's just so inspirational to me. And then finding his place in the world, it's important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm happy how it turned out.
Exactly. Yeah, this would be an exceptional documentary anytime, but why do you think right now is a perfect time for this film to get out and reach people?
For me,
for either one of you.
Yeah, any time is the right time for this message to go out, I believe. And right now it's just people have just started talking about it. They're just scratching the surface. They don't fully understand it. And me being the director, I've had so much positive feedback. Like even from I'm not Punjabi, by the way. I'm from the south of India, and I come from a different culture. But our cultures are so similar that you can still, everybody can relate to the story. It doesn't matter if you're Punjabi or Sikh. I'm Hindu myself, but you can still relate. And I've never had a negative comment about me doing this film. It's been very positive feedback for me. So yeah, the message is getting out there, and I'm really happy that it's working. Yeah.
What I love about the film is that anyone can connect to it because it's a human story. It's about lived experience. It's about emotion. It's about feeling. It's about connection, and anyone can relate to that. And what I really, really like about it is we don't have an agenda. We don't have an agenda. We're not trying to brainwash or force our opinions or views or anyone. We just share the stories, and people can walk away feeling whatever they want. And we want to give hope to the younger generation and to the parents. I mean, in our community, there is really not a lot of films about gay Punjabi Sikh families, especially. There's very, very limited body of work. They don't have a lot of resources in schools or colleges or universities or anywhere for a film like this. It's really quite a pioneering film that we managed to fund by ourselves as an independent grassroots nonprofit and produce and release. And one of the reasons our next project is we're going to create short films based on this feature film. We've already created a teacher's discussion guide, which is available for free download on emergencefilm.net. And we want to get it into schools. We want to get it far and wide. And we want youth, especially, to feel hopeful in our communities and in all communities, to feel that, yes, look at all the struggles these families and these kids went through and the parents. But at the end of the story, there is redemption, there is hope, and you can have a positive life. Because you see in Jag's story, she never knew how she could be a mother. She never knew how she could have a partner. And without giving away the story, there's a good ending for Jag. And for Caden, he was disowned. He was disowned by his entire family for being gay in our community, and this is very. This is a black mark on our community, I feel, and yet he managed to find a pathway and connect to enough resources and find his people, and he got his redemption in a way. And then, so that was Caden, that was Jack, and then myself. I have come to terms with my life through a nonprofit and charity that I founded, and I created my own community around me that provided me with the support that I needed and going through my life. And a lot of people who watch this film, they say, who are around my age, they say, I really related with you because I'm also in my 40s or in my early 50s, and I know what you mean when you say in the queer community, it's difficult sometimes to fit in when there's so much in the media about being young and being youthful and being beautiful and everywhere you look, and you sometimes don't see yourself represented or reflected in the images. And so I think it's a really nice balance in the story of different people of different ages, different backgrounds, and having gay people, lesbian stories, and and the parents. And I'm so proud of Vinay. Thank you, Vinay, and for doing this film for 2 years. For 2 years, can you imagine? And he was working on an honorarium from a nonprofit, and he gave us, he says that thank you for giving me a chance, and I say, well, thank you for doing it.
Earlier we were talking about your festival run, and you have a congratulations, you have quite a festival run. This one, can you talk a little bit about some of the other places that this film will be seen, other places and festivals?
Yes, so a lot, ever since Out on Film announced, a lot of festivals came on board. So our world premiere is at Cinema Diverse at Palm Springs this month. And that is, Out on Film would have been our world premiere if we didn't get into Palm Springs, but we did. So we got to Palm Springs.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so we got into Chicago, and then after Atlanta, it goes to Chicago at the South Asian Festival in Chicago, which is one of the largest South Asian festivals in the heartland of America. And then Philadelphia, there's Queer Flicks, I believe it's called. It's the major queer festival in Philadelphia. It's going to be screened there. We have Sphere in Seattle, which is the largest South Asian festival in the USA. We have a number of festivals in Toronto, Winnipeg, and Vancouver. KDOX Film Festival in Metro Vancouver, which is the largest social justice documentary festival in Metro Vancouver. It's really quite a good one. It is our Canadian premiere in the Surrey, Vancouver area. And the other ones, I don't think the festivals have announced, so I don't know if I should announce them, but we've got into 16 festivals now before our world premiere.
Wow.
Before our world premiere. And a lot of them are hitting the big US cities like 2 weeks right after each other. Like boom, 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 boom. It'll be all over the place.
That's such great news. So you mentioned earlier your next project. Can you talk a little bit more about that and when you are going to be working on it?
So I think we're going to start that in February. Vinay is actually, you caught him at the right time because he's leaving for vacation for 6 weeks in India. I know he's crazy to go to India in the middle of COVID, but his brother and his wife's sister are actually getting married. So he has to go, right? It's like a double marriage in the family. It's like a double marriage in the family. So he has to go, and so he's leaving all the interviews and festivals and everything to me and the cast and the rest of the crew. So um, yeah, so I will be working on the short films in February starting.
Okay. That's
And
great.
we're looking for donations. If anyone wants to donate, get in touch with me. Go to emergencefilm.net and email me.
Well, I was going to ask you, I mean, if someone sees this documentary and says, I have to share this with colleagues or friends or other people, how can they specifically reach out to you two and maybe
Yeah.
arrange with this? How can they, what's the best way to reach out to you two in
Just
terms of the film?
Just go to the official website, emergencefilm.net,
Okay.
emergence, and then film.net, and you can contact me there. We have the film available through an educational distributor, Moving Images Distribution. You can order the film in advance. You can download the free teacher's discussion guide. We're making it freely available for everyone.
Oh,
And
nice.
Vinay actually designed it. Vinay actually designed this discussion guide, and it's stunning. If you see it, it's really artwork. And so get in touch with us if you want to support the short films. Please help us because we're a grassroots nonprofit. Every little dollar helps, and especially American dollars. We are very fond of them.
That's great. The film is Emergence, Out of the Shadows. It's part of our virtual catalog this year. It's extraordinary. I'm sure you're all going to love it. So thank you so much, Vinay, Alex, for sharing this film with us and for this great Q&A today. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you for having us. We're so proud and happy to be part of Out on Film.
We're happy to have you in the festival as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tim.
Talk to y'all soon.